Hello there, Battlefield and non-Battlefield players. Welcome to Battlefield 1 Podcast, where we talk about Battlefield and only Battlefield. How many times I said Battlefield? It doesn't really matter, honestly, because I'm just adding more words for the algorithm to detect, and so people can find us more easily on Spotify or any other audio platform out there. Anyway, my name is Tom, aka TheLankySoldier, and it was an amazing intro, I know. And I'll be your host for today. So grab a drink, snack, whatever makes you comfortable, and let's talk about Battlefield. You know, the greatest game in the universe. Okay, maybe not the greatest, but hey, I'm just trying to be lightful here, you know. Help me out. And before I continue, I want everyone to know that we have time codes in the description. So if you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere, or including YouTube, you can find the time codes in the description wherever you're listening to the podcast. And if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, I understand that not everyone has, an hour to spare, to listen to our podcast. So if you want to listen to a specific part only, so you can go to the description, press on the time code, and find the topic you want to listen. Will it be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or how long? I don't know how long the topic will be, but hey, you get the idea. You want to save some time? Time codes are in the description. So that's kind of it. And in the same description, you can find our social media links, your Twitters, your Blue Skies, your what else? What do we have? Of course, YouTube's, but I don't know. Social media these days is really difficult, so we have some. So just follow us, add us there, give us a bump in the algorithms, It's also social media, all I'm going to say. So if you want to follow us directly, go find us there. Everything is in the description. And of course, if you enjoy the show, please do leave a rating in your respectable audio platforms you're listening on, as it helps us to be more discoverable and you're helping the podcast to grow. I mean, it does help. So, and I've been seeing a lot of people been leaving reviews and stars and I don't know what to call them. Yeah, reviews and stars, on different audio platforms. And thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. It actually means a lot. It does help to bump the podcast up in the algorithms. People can find it easily. And it does help. So thank you guys for doing that. And it really means a lot. And last and not least, and if you really, really enjoy this show, you really enjoy Battlefield 1 podcast, I fully recommend to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/TheLankySoldier. By subscribing to the Patreon, you're not only supporting us on this Battlefield adventure, you're also getting early access to future Battlefield 1 episodes and other future videos I post on the Lanky Soldier channel. But also you're getting exclusive episodes of LGG Extra Podcast, which me and Ray are hosting. And I think those episodes are really amazing because it's just us being free, from all the nonsense that is happening around the world and on the internet and everything, and just us being relaxed, more honest about our opinions about everything we want to talk about. Of course, it's video games all the time, or Battlefield, or Call of Duty, or any other topic regarding video games, and sometimes about movies. And we like it. We actually like hosting LGG podcast. We make some, I think, amazing episodes, and it would be really a shame if you don't check them out. And you can use the free trial. So if you don't want to subscribe fully, and you're not fully, not committed, you want to check out if it's worth subscribing, you can use a free trial. Use a free trial, listen to all the episodes we posted so far, and decide if it's worth your time and worth your money. And I hope it is, because I do think we produce some amazing stuff, so check it out. And if you don't want to subscribe, and even if you don't want to use the free trial in that matter, you can always just not subscribe, I think it's like join groups, join the community or something like that. I don't know how Patreon calls it, but it's basically a new feature on Patreon where you can just join Patreon without paying. And you're basically like a community member there, and you can still interact with the public posts that are happening on Patreon and so on. So still do that. It bumps our numbers. It let people know that, hey, this is not some old abandoned Patreon or whatever. People are being active there, stuff being posted, and so on. So join, why not? It does help us out. And if, like I said, if you don't want to just subscribe, just be a community member. And sometimes we do giveaways for the some games. For example, last giveaway we did for the Patreon users was EA Sports FC 24 on PlayStation code, and yeah, formerly as known as FIFA 24. So it's a FIFA game. EA gave us a code, so we gave it away, and we picked a winner, and yeah, it was fun. So someone has a premium edition of EA Sports FC on their PlayStation, and I hope they enjoy the game. So we do giveaways sometimes, so just for that, I recommend to join the Patreon. And that's it. I think that's all the announcements I have for today. I have nothing else to say. Ray is not available for this particular episode because he's not available for today. And so, but I do want to push out this episode as soon as possible, just because Battlefield Season 6 came out, and I really want to capitalize on that it's barely been a week since it came out, and I want to talk about it. And I have my first impressions. I have things I want to talk about. And yeah, so let's talk about Battlefield, and I hope Ray can join us for the next episode, because there's some news, for example, news, more like rumors, that, was it Disney? Disney wanted to buy Electronic Arts. Wanted? But because there was already rumors of them wanting to buy EA, that kind of means that it might happen in a sense, maybe not Disney buying EA, but that means EA is in a position where it can be sold. And there's so many things to discuss about that, because was it like a year ago, 6 months ago? I can't remember when was it. Maybe 6 months ago, when EA split into two. So it's not Electronic Arts anymore. It's Electronic Arts Sports and it's Electronic Arts Entertainment. People don't really think about that deeply, what that means, but it means a lot, because financials and everything like that, and there's rumors that Disney was thinking, or at least discussing, the idea for purchasing EA, because they want to enter the gaming business again, even though Disney was in the gaming industry before, and they did not do good. So anyway, there's a lot of things to discuss, so hopefully Ray can join me for that discussion, because it's a really big topic to discuss, because it's just insane. Alright, let me have a sip of water first, because I'm recording this by myself. Usually I have Ray to talk while I'm taking a sip of water, so, but today I'm by myself today, so yeah, sorry if I'm just gonna take a sip of water and just take a 2-second break. Anyway, so Battlefield. Okay, I need to breathe. Alright, Battlefield. Season 6 is out. And I'm gonna start with the trailers they released for Season 6. So Battlefield 2042 Season 6. They released a cinematic trailer and they released a gameplay trailer. And I'll be honest, the production quality of those trailers is really amazing. Really amazing trailers. Well produced, well edited, well executed. I think it's, as usual, DICE and Electronic Arts are really good with their marketing material. They are amazing trailers, but my criticism I have regarding them, and especially my girlfriend mentioned that, is they're a bit samey, and I have to agree with her, because every trailer they released is very samey. And it's nice to see, explosions and, good exposition, whatever you want to call it. Explain what's happening with this game mode or map or theme of the season. It's nice, but every trailer is basically the same. It's just basically they show the soldiers, something happens, there's explosions and there's shooting, and that's it. I enjoyed the last trailer, which was for Reclaimed, so for Season 5, because there was a bit some story, at least something happening, something like some sort of... I don't really know what's the story about for 2042, because sometimes it's really difficult to follow. But at least there was something to explain what's happening in the game. At least they tried. And I really enjoy that. And they do kind of here they're showing, hey, there's like human experiments happening, all that kind of stuff. I get that, but sometimes sometimes you need something more than just shooting with the beat in the background. You know what I mean? It just becomes really samey. You have a track in the background like that has a beat, and all your shots are going to the, all the shooting is happening to the beat, which is fine, fine and great and everything. But sometimes you need a bit more, you need a bit more story. You need a bit more context. You need a bit more meat. It's fine to showcase those kind of trailers once in a while to promote the map and so on, but it's just something you want something more, something that gives a bit more oof, something like maybe like Irish talking in the background about something or some other character, Ooh, sorry, I just burped. You need something. You need something that pushes the narrative forward, and just shots of explosions and shooting, with the beat in the background, it gets boring after a while. It's great for like a couple of trailers, but it gets really boring really quick. Even though the production quality is everything great, trailers are fantastic, but it would be great to have a bit more meat, like something. So like a bit more character, a bit more story, I don't want Valve to be just shooting and explosions and all that kind of stuff, even though it's a first-person shoot, but you need something. And regarding marketing, I know some content creators got some physical mail. They got like puzzles to solve. You know how Call of Duty sends out some random stuff to content creators, and they like have to figure out something, work together to unlock I don't know what to call it, the next clue, whatever. So Battlefield started doing that with Season 6. I'm gonna talk about that later, but I just find it interesting that Battlefield and EA actually did that, because they usually never do that. So that means they have a lot of confidence in this season, but we'll talk about that later. So Season 6, there's a big, huge list of changes that happened with this season, and I really want to talk about them. But I don't think I'm gonna cover everything, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna miss something. But in general, I really like this season. I really like what they did with certain changes. I love what they did with the vehicles. I love what they did with the gunplay. It's not really mentioned. I did ask someone who knows better than me if they did something to the gunplay. I know they fixed a bug where certain weapons had a really weird recoil. So they kind of fixed that bug where the recoil is a bit more manageable and not ridiculous. And it's easy to track now when you aim and shoot at the same time. I think they did it to allow weapons, or they did something to the shooting mechanics, and it feels a bit more, it feels better, which is good. But like I said, I'm not gonna cover all of the changes because there's so many changes, and I know I'm gonna miss some, and I don't think you want to listen all just me reading patch notes. I don't think that's really interesting to anyone, and I don't believe that's really interesting to listen to begin with. But yeah, first and foremost, I want to say that as I'm recording this, there's a free trial happening on Battlefield 2042. I think it's happening for 3 days. I think it ends tomorrow, if I remember correctly. So today I'm recording on the 15th of October, which is Sunday, and I think that free trial ends tomorrow. So at the moment, as I've seen, Battlefield 2042 has 80,000 plus players on Steam alone. That is insane. Because on a regular basis for the last year, since launch, on Steam alone, we usually have like 10,000 players, 8,000, 5,000, at one point like hit 3,000, I think. But usual 10,000 players on Steam. So let's say 10,000 on Steam and 10,000 roughly on other platforms, let's say. Let's guess 50,000 players on all platforms, which is great. But if it's on Steam alone, 80,000 players are playing the game right now. When the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 actual beta is live right now, and Battlefield managed to have 80,000 players on Steam alone, comparison, on a regular basis, Call of Duty Warzone has 100,000 players on a regular basis. So this only shows that Battlefield, even when Call of Duty is promoting its most, promoting the new game that is about to come out, this only shows that Battlefield still has the brand recognition, still has the brand power, it's still a big franchise, and it can compete with Call of Duty if done right. And Battlefield always been that franchise that always tried to compete with Call of Duty, but for the wrong reasons. It tried to be Call of Duty because tried to get the players that love Call of Duty, so let's do Battlefield what Call of Duty does, We're Battlefield, let's do what Call of Duty does, and trying to bring those Call of Duty players to Battlefield. And I think that was the biggest mistake EA or DICE ever did, is because they tried to be like Call of Duty. Don't be like Call of Duty, be Battlefield. There's a reason why your franchise is so big in the first place. Because people don't want to play Call of Duty. If they want Call of Duty, play Call of Duty. So I'm really glad. I'm actually surprised and amazed. Even though it's a free trial, a lot of people are playing. Because it's for free, might as well check out new season and so on. 80,000 players on Steam alone, so that's amazing. So that's not including PlayStation, EA app, or Origin, whatever you want to call it, Xbox, and that's including PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and the new Xbox Series X. 80,000, so roughly 80,000 players on each platform. That's a lot of players, a lot of new players or returning players coming back to play the new season. And that's a very positive sign for this game. And we'll talk about this game a bit more, but like the future of Battlefield, but that's a really positive thing and a really promising sign. So I hope that will continue. Just because the free trial will end, hopefully the player base is not going to drop too much, because I think the Season 6 is very good, very promising changes, promising stuff, and the map is good and so on. So I hope that will stay, and that's all I'm going to say. It's a really good sign. So basically, Season 6, I'm going through I'm going to the roadmap. So of course it has a new battle pass, new skins, it has a new vehicle. It's like I call it Rolf Copter, but it's basically a 2-seat mini helicopter. Not a helicopter, how are they called? Not a drone. It's basically a bike that can fly. That's all it is. And I tried it. It's cool. It's nice. I mean, funny, but it kind of fits the theme for Battlefield, for the future Battlefield, or whatever you want to call it, like the Battlefield 2042 era. It makes sense. So, of course, you have new skins and everything. New vehicle. Yeah, no new vehicle. But, yeah. Oh, they also... Oh, no, I'm going to talk about that later. So, let's talk about the map first. So, the theme of the season is basically... there's human experiments happening in Scotland. Well, I think the map is based in Scotland. Ooh, sorry, I burped again. So there's human experiments happening. There's like cyborgs and all that kind of stuff, and you fight in a map that is basically a la Operation Metro, Operation Loca. So if you play Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, you know what kind of map this is gonna be. It's gonna be a very close core map, 4 flags, very tight spaces, very long corridors, and so on. Maybe I would say like a 3-lane map, with 64 players. And usually, it's basically a grinder map. It's like a grinding map. It's like you basically load into this map to get some kills, level up your weapons, just explosions everywhere. It's just a clusterfuck of shit everywhere, And it's this map, which is called Redacted, it's nothing like Operation Lock or Operation Metro, because I usually never like those type of maps in Battlefield, because there's usually no tactics, no good progression. It's just basically brain dead mode. Monkey sees, monkey shoots, It's just like, oh, you see a red diamond, you shoot that red diamond, and you die, you respawn, and you're back in the fight like in 2 seconds. It's, it's not really deep. That's how it was on Operation Metro and Operation Loca, especially on Metro. Metro just like one lane, people shooting at each other and just like have fun. Loca was a bit more, what was the word I'm looking for? Not expanded, more like a bit more, less narrow, less narrow. It was still a narrow map, but it was less narrow. Redacted, which is this season's map, it's kind of the same, but is a bit more unique in itself. Like each flag, each objective on the map has its own unique, design idea. Each flag is very unique from each other. It's not the same. In the middle of the map, you have like not abandoned, like a little house with the little village. Like it's overgrown, it's old, it's destroyed, but it's like a little village thing. I don't know what to call it. If you ever play Battlefield 1 and you played on Argonne Forest, one of the flags I think it's the A flag. It's basically that. It's like a destroyed, overgrown leftovers of a village or building or castle. I can't remember what was it, but it's basically that. While on the other side of the map, on Redacted, you have like a testing facility. You have you have these cylinders. You have your X-rays, all that kind of stuff. And the other side of the map, you have your like like a storage area or whatever you want to call it. And each objective on the map is very unique from each other. It's not the same. It creates a different fighting opportunities, and that's very cool. It's actually a well-designed map, and I really, really love that. It's just one of those things that you happy to play over and over again, because every fight is not going to be the same, like on Operation Metro or Operation Loca. That's the problem I had with Operation Loca and Metro, is because all the fights were the same. Locations were the same, flags were the same. Yeah, sometimes the map is longer and so like or wider, whatever, but the fights were the same. The scenery was the same, and Redacted, every fight is different. And that's really a really good thing, because you will be less bored playing the map this over and over again, So I really like the map. I really like the idea that what they're going with. There's like a bit more darker. First ever Battlefield map that is indoors apparently. And it's like, human cyborgs, human experiments, it's a bit more dark. You see like dead bodies on the floor, blood and all that kind of stuff. And that's cool. I actually like the idea. It's one of those like, it's funny when you put Battlefield, quite a really goofy franchise if you ask me, in a very serious environment. It just works. Even with the ridiculous skins, sometimes players running around and everything, but Battlefield always stayed, even though Battlefield was always not that serious franchise, as in like, it was serious, but it was never really like that ultra realistic, It was authentic, but not ultra realistic. It's really interesting how Battlefield can work really well when put in a serious environment, when there's a serious tone happening in the game. And I think that's what people really want from Battlefield 2042. Like that tone, the tone they were promised when the game was being promoted. When the first, when the reveal trailer Battlefield 2042, like everything is going to shit, the whole planet is going to shit, everyone are fighting for survival, all that kind of stuff. And it was some really serious stuff. And when the game came out, it was like, don't be sad. Sometimes it just works out like that. Sometimes tone was introduced into the game. It was really feeling out of place. And now, almost 2 years later, we have a map that is very serious in its tone, serious in its presentation. It's still Battlefield 2042, but it works. It just works. And I really, really like that. Also, there's a Halloween mode apparently coming in the future. In the future, as I'm recording this. There was a good video from a YouTuber called Flagfire. So if you're really familiar with Battlefield content creation or YouTubers and everything, so you probably heard of Flagfire. And for people that are listening, if you actually want to hear our interview with Flagfire that we did, we had him on the podcast on Live Gaming Gathering. So if you want to hear an interview we did with him on the podcast, just talking about content creation, about Battlefield, all that kind of stuff, go check on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you listen to the podcast, or YouTube in that matter. Go search for Live Gaming Gathering, episode 29, I think. You'll see, it's called Interview with Flagfire, and listen to the podcast. I think it's one of my favorite episodes we ever did, because it was an amazing interview we did. It was really fun, very interesting, and yeah, I do recommend to listen to it. So if you're familiar and you know who Flagfire is, I recommend to listen to that interview because it's really amazing. So Live Gaming Gathering, episode 29, interview with Flagfire. You'll find it. It's a really good episode podcast, and I really loved it. As I was saying, right, so he made a good video about the next upcoming Halloween mode. And it's something to do with cyborgs, something gonna be like, some people speculate it's gonna be like a conquest type of mode, something like that, I don't know. But what I love about this, that Battlefield was never really known for its LTMs, limited time modes, and I'm glad they're actually doing that, especially for Halloween. They did it for season, like mid-season events and so on, but it's not the same. This is the first time they ever did officially with like a limited time mode for Halloween. They did that for Battlefield 4 CTE, if I remember correctly. So it was like, almost 10 years ago? Yeah, 9 years ago. My God, it was 9 years ago. So they did like a limited time mode for Halloween 9 years ago, and they're finally doing another LTM officially now on the retail version of the game. And I'm really curious how it's gonna work, and I hope it's gonna be really fun. I hope it's gonna be really interesting. Something with cyborgs, something about AI controlling humans, and hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's really fun. There's already some teasers about some creepy AI talking to you, saying that the AI can see you, all that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting. So I hope it's gonna be good and it's gonna be fun. And I do recommend to watch Flagfire's video on YouTube about it, because it's really cool. So I hope it's gonna be good and really fun. This is the longest season so far. It's gonna be 16 weeks, and a lot of people speculating why it's so long. But I think the reason why it's so long is because the season was delayed, and I don't think you want to end the season like at New Year's and basically have nothing for a year, for a month. So, assuming there's gonna be a season 7, and we're gonna talk about that later. I understand why. It's one of those things. It's because of schedule. So I understand why this is a 16-week long season. The longest season they ever had in Battlefield 2042 is because of the timing. It's because it's Christmas, New Year's, and everyone's gonna be on holiday. There's nothing they can do or whatever. So I get it. I don't think there's any deep conspiracy theory why it's so long. I think it's because it's just timing. It just makes sense. And because of the timing and how long this season is, my phone beeped. Sorry about that. And because how long this season is, they actually reduced like how much Battle Pass points you get by completing your weekly challenges. They did address that they're gonna change it. They're gonna change it to, because people were complaining that it's taking too long to level up the Battle Pass, to complete the Battle Pass and so on. So I know Battlefield did say they're gonna change to be more like a regular like last season. So I'm glad they actually listened to the feedback, and there's like, yeah, I'm sorry that this was not supposed to be like that. So we're gonna change it. We're gonna make it a bit less time consuming to complete the Battle Pass. And I'm glad they're doing that, because the thing is, like, I haven't played Battlefield 2042 that much, but I did appreciate that they respected my time as a player. So if I barely was playing Battlefield, because as I was still able to finish the Battle Pass if I really, really wanted to. I did not need to commit a lot of time to complete the Battle Pass. I could do it on my own pace, which is completely different story. For example, in Call of Duty, which is time based. It doesn't matter how good you play, how well you play, or whatever you do. It's always very grindy. And I remember back in, like, when Verdansk was out, when the Warzone 1 was out, back in 2020. Season passes were not that grindy back then. I do remember that. But something with this game, something they changed, that completing the Battle Pass these days is very, very difficult and very grindy. It's just, I don't know what they did. They probably want to encourage, buff the metrics a bit. Like, look how many players we have, how many players are still playing the game, and so on, and then they will stop playing. Look how good the game is. And while Battlefield is like, nah, you complete the challenges and you'll complete the Battle Pass. It's that easy. And I really, really appreciate that about Battlefield. No matter how much shit DICE and EA, they could have went completely different direction. They could literally told, no, fuck you. You're gonna do this our way. You're gonna stay and play this game non-stop, because we need to buff the metrics and we need to make sure that this game is still not dead. I'm glad they respected the player base and their time and say, no, you just complete the weeklies, play a little bit, and you'll complete the Battle Pass. I love that. And I'm glad they actually responded to the feedback they got in this last week. And from the next week, they'll buff how much points you get from the Battle Pass, how much you're doing from the weekly challenges. And I'm glad they're doing that, because it actually means so much. And I'm glad they're listening and they actually respect you as a player. They're still a big company, a still big brand. I get it. But I'm glad they respect their customers in a sense that you can complete the Battle Pass on your own pace. And speaking of Battle Passes, they released like how they want to be, they try to copy Call of Duty sometimes, because that's what Call of Duty, like, it just creates a big interesting dynamic. So whatever Call of Duty does in their gaming sphere, whatever they do in the gaming industry, usually all other publishers and game developers follow, because, oh, that works, that means we're gonna do it too. So, for example, Battle Passes. The reason Battle Passes exist in the first place is because Fortnite exploded and people like the idea of Battle Passes, so every bloody company is doing now Battle Passes. That Fortnite made the Battle Passes popular, and Call of Duty did other popular stuff that everyone followed. It's just publishers following trends. But what Battlefield is doing right now is they're introducing a new type of Battle Pass, which you can only buy with real money. And that's how Call of Duty, that's what Call of Duty started basically doing. Like about 6-7 months ago, Battlefield introduced an expensive edition of the Battle Pass. So you can't buy it with in-game currency. You can only buy it with real money. And it was like $30. And because it was $30, and it was only for the season, you get like extra skins, extra like Call of Duty points and all that kind of stuff. And it was outrageous what they did, because you had to buy the thing every season over and over again. So we're talking $30 per season. So every 2 months, you pay $30 for that Battle Pass, the expensive edition. You didn't have to get it, of course, because it was just all cosmetics. But it was one of the best-selling things ever. Like, it sold a lot. And because it sold so much, other publishers, including EA, they looked at it like, wait a minute. Well, people are buying this, so why can't we do that? And which they did. So they introduced like the Battlefield introduced a thing called Battlefield Ultimate Pack. And it's basically that. So you have your regular Battle Pass, you can buy with in-game currency. Then you have a more expensive one when you get like tier skips or something like that. And you have your, so-called Black Cell. But it's not Black Cell, it's called Ultimate Pack. And it's basically the Battle Pass expensive edition. So I'm guessing if there's gonna be a season 7 and season 8 and so on, they're gonna be doing this on a regular basis now. So you're gonna have your regular pass, your expensive Battle Pass, which you can buy with in-game currency, and you have your money. You can only buy with money, the Battle Pass, and it comes with some exclusive skins and so on. And it's just cosmetics at the end of the day. I love that. I love that they actually doing that. Like, when I say I love that, I don't mean like I just find it hilarious that they decide to do that. They looked at Call of Duty and like, you know what, we need to do the same thing because it actually makes them money. So maybe we can make a bit of extra money too. And that means that if Battlefield is doing it and Call of Duty is doing it, that means all other games, I'm pretty sure Fortnite will do it soon, very soon, because they pay attention. They pay attention what people are doing. And gaming these days is very expensive. It's becoming really, really expensive. I mean, granted, it's only skins for now, but it's just fine that it's becoming very, very expensive because it's just trying to capitalize on that, on whales, trying to spend all the money they can. I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing. I just find it really interesting that they're introducing a Battle Pass that you can only buy with money, and it's like $18, I think, if the last time I checked, maybe $20. So it's not far off from $30 that Call of Duty is offering, but Battlefield is offering for $20. Maybe because they have less skins and less perks, but we are here, I guess. Okay, right. I want to talk about vehicles. So what they did with this season, they actually made something I never believed they will do. So with season 6, they start to change vehicles, how they work and so on, and especially tanks. So since Battlefield 2042 came out, I made a video on my YouTube channel like a month after release, and I was basically talking for 20 minutes, I think, 20 or 30 minutes, I can't remember. It was basically me talking and discussing how vehicles in Battlefield 2042 are very underpowered, badly designed, with no countermeasures to fight off multiple enemies, with no acceleration or speed to run away from enemies or do anything interesting with, like, and have any interesting tank battles or fights and whatever. Now, a lot of people listening to this podcast, and I know a lot of you are infantry players, and you probably think vehicles are overpowered. You probably think they're OP and so on, and I don't think that's true, because just because it can kill you with one shot directly or with splash damage doesn't make it OP, because at the end of the day, it's still a tank, it's a vehicle, and you have the tools to fight tank. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. Basically, trust me on this one, because I've been playing vehicles, I've been playing tanks since I started to play Battlefield. We're talking 10 plus years, and I've always been a really good tank driver. I always knew what makes a tank gameplay really fun, interesting, and so on, because I personally think I'm really good with those tanks. People might, like, for example, I had so many arguments, like, for example, I'm in the tank and I have friends, trying to repair me, and they always bitch at me that, oh, why are you moving away? Why you move around? You're like, well, I can't repair you, and so on. But that's the thing. I played competitive Battlefield matches, and I understand that they're probably not in the same mindset as me, but the reason why I survive in a tank so long and why I do well in a tank is because I pick my battles carefully, and I know when I need to attack, when I need to be more aggressive, when I need to be more defensive, when I need to retreat, and so on. It's hard to explain to them, and because back in the day when we played competitive matches, I always had a designate, we call it repair monkey. We always had a designated repair monkey. So I was the driver in the tank, and I had a repair monkey with me that was a gunner. So that person always knew when to get out and get into the vehicle, because he knew when we're in trouble, when we had to retreat and so on. And it all depends, it's just about experience. It's about communication and so on. Like, when you're playing like duos tennis or any duos or any type of game where you need to play with a friend, or with a teammate, whatever, right? And you have to cooperate and understand each other, how you work and so on, understand each other's play style. So it's kind of the same. You kind of need to find that balance of, you have your driver and you have your support guy preparing you whenever. It's one of those things that you can't just teach. You have to just experience it yourself and play and practice non-stop. But anyway, it's a tangent. It's not really that important. The thing is, I'm trying to say is that playing with vehicles in Battlefield, I think I understand like how to make them fun and how to make them interesting and rewarding and so on, because I've been playing them for so long. So I know what works, what doesn't, and so on. So for my biggest criticism regarding 2042 when it comes to vehicles was that when you play these tanks, they were too slow, the turret speed was too slow, acceleration was too slow, there was no countermeasures against air vehicles, especially like helicopters and so on. The damage model was really borked and was like always the same. Doesn't matter if you hit them from the front or the back or from the side. It was always the same static damage, which was really not fun when you were like fighting multiple tanks at once. There was no reason to be clever, no reason to be, go around them or be very smart about how you pick the fights in a tank. Because it doesn't matter, because it was all static damage, it was all the same, it was really basic and very simple and slow and sluggish. It was just not fun. And people say like, oh, they were very overpowered. Well, just because you die from a tank doesn't mean they're overpowered. It was really easy to dunk on a tank in 2042. If you're a Battlefield veteran or whatever, and you played engineer all the time, Battlefield 2042 technically is the easiest game for you to dunk on a tank and just kill them like they're nothing. It was the easiest game. I'm sorry, that will not change my opinion. But this season they introduced some changes. For example, here, let me read the tweet. For example, from them for Battlefield.com or whatever you want to call it, communications Twitter, whatever. So, tank tracking friction is lowered, allowing for tanks to have improved momentum when turning. In general, this will make it feel lighter when maneuvering the vehicle in all directions. So that's one of the examples, right? We also have increased the engine power when running on the lowest RPM, resulting in improved acceleration in reverse as well as turning from standstill point, which was my number one complaint when it comes to tanks. They were sluggish, they were slow. If you got shot, you had no chance. It just like if someone threw a smart grenade at you and disabled your turret, you have no defense against that. You can't run away. You can't do anything. You're screwed. And what they did with this season, they made them faster. They made the turrets faster. They made the acceleration faster. They made it more smoother, and also they improved the physics. How you go from you go up the hill and just drive off the hill with a tank. Back, when the game came out, you could basically float a bit forward. It felt really weird. But now they have proper physics. You just up go the hill and you go down. You actually land properly as you're supposed to in a tank, with more somewhat realistic physics. And they improved how the tanks feel. And I played this I played on a couple of maps where tanks were available, because on the new map, on Redacted, you're not allowed to play with any vehicles because it's an infantry only mode, only infantry map. So I played with tanks and so on, and my God, I swear to God, it's day and night difference. Tanks feel really good right now, and they haven't mentioned that anywhere, but I am pretty certain they also changed the damage models on the tanks. So that means if you shoot the tank up front, face to face, you shoot them out of front, he'll take less damage than he will take from the back. So if you shoot him in the back, it will do more damage. But if you shoot from the front, and you hit him in the front, it'll take less damage. From the side, they'll take a bit more damage. I'm pretty certain they changed that, because I played with my friend a couple of days ago, and I noticed that even though they had a couple of engineers repairing them at front back, some think, oh, well, it's just engineers repairing it. Yeah, but just because they're repairing doesn't mean they will take less damage. You will still take that same static damage, and then you will see the health bar going up on the tank because they're repairing it. No, but this time I noticed they took less damage, and I'm like, huh, that's weird. I haven't tried to shoot them in the back because I was like, the situation wasn't there for me to do that. But I am pretty certain they did that, and that's good. That means tank battles now will be more clever, more entertaining, and more smart. So that means it's not just two bulk metal just hitting each other, just like, ooh, just two idiots slapping each other. That's how I imagine tank battles back in 2042, before this update. It's just two idiots slapping each other and just like, I slap, you slap me, I slap, and see whoever falls first. That's how I imagine tank battles be. And now it's more clever, it's more smart. It's like you actually have to think how you fight. You have to now decide, do you want to go from the front? Do you have engineers on you repairing you? Or you want to try to go flank them and try to get them from the back? When do you need to retreat? When do you need to attack? And because you can do that now, because the tanks are faster, it's easier to control them, they're more smoother, tank turrets are more responsive. That means you can react better to any danger that's coming your way, and that's fantastic. It's like everything I mentioned in that video, was 20-30 minute long video, I sent it to DICE. I hope someone watched it. Well, it looks like they did. I mean, crap. When the game came out, tanks did not have APS, which is Advanced Protection System. It basically destroys all the rockets coming your way for a limited time, for 3 seconds, 2 seconds, whatever. And the game did not have that, And I want to say 9 months ago, they finally introduced that into the tanks. I'm like, oh, hallelujah, they actually did something right, at least for once. And now, 2 years later, they finally did something I never imagined they will do. They changed the tank mechanics entirely. And I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. You actually improved the tanks, and they're actually really fun to play now. Hallelujah. Thank you, DICE. Someone listened, someone actually cared, and I hope this is a good sign for the future Battlefield or next upcoming seasons. Because now I'm like, well, now I can play Battlefield a bit more often because this is somewhat fun now, because the mechanics are different. They actually promotes a more interesting gameplay. Now, okay, sure, I can talk about tanks for more so on, but I understand you don't want to listen to the tanks all the time and so on. Oh, but also one more thing about the tanks. One of the characters, specialist, Rao, I think, that's his name, the one that hacks equipment and vehicles and so on. So when you got hacked by him, you could not shoot. You could drive around, but you could not shoot. Now you can shoot. You're hacked, and I'm guessing your screen is a bit more blurry, more covered, and you can't really see that much, but you can shoot. When you got hacked, before this update, it was just garbage. That means you have to just retreat slowly, and hopefully you will not die because engineers are not doing their jobs. The reason you would not die is because engineers were not doing their jobs. The enemy engineers, I mean. So now you can shoot and you can retreat and so on. That's great. You have more chances to defend yourself against hacks, other tanks and the other vehicles, air vehicles that just basically dunk on you because you have no protection against that. And that's great. That's great. So anyway, what else we can talk about here? There's a new anti-cheat that EA is introducing to the game, which is called EA anti-cheat or something like that. And nothing to say here, it's just like, fuck hackers. Everyone that hacks in a video game, for specific advantage, in a multiplayer game, go fuck yourself. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Go fuck yourself. Every person that hacks in a video game is just like, I don't know what the fuck you're doing with your life. Seriously, why? You can do better things. You can just be a better human being. You don't have to be a piece of shit. Whatever. So hopefully that Electronic Arts or EA anti-cheat works. Now it's in Battlefield. It's active. It's working. So hopefully that's it. I've seen some people complaining that the map is 64 player only, and I'm just gonna say this. I understand if you're not okay. Here's it. If you haven't played Battlefield for a while, you probably don't even care how many players are on the server. You just want a good game. You just want a good Battlefield game. That's it. But as I was reading Reddit, good old famous Reddit. As I was reading Reddit, some of them were complaining that the map is only 64 players. And I'm just thinking, okay, you're on Reddit. You're on a Battlefield 2042 subreddit. So I'm guessing you're somewhat familiar what's happening with this game for the last couple of months. So why are you complaining it's only 64 players when they when they announced and it was obvious from a couple of months ago that they abandoning 120 player experiment? Like the new map from season 5, reclaimed, was 64 player only. You could have 128 players on on Portal. Then the new redesigned map of not Sinai Desert, Hourglass, the desert map, right? It was redesigned as a 64 player variant. A lot of people were complaining again. Why is it 64? Well, because they are abandoning a 128 player experiment. And now the new map is 64 players only. And they complain, why is not 128 players? I don't think are you that oblivious, or you just don't understand? Or, I don't know. I don't know. If you listen to this podcast and I'm cussing you for this, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty certain you understand what's happening and you see the signs that hey, 128 players did not work. This experiment is over, and DICE wants to focus on 64 players because it offers better gameplay, offers more fidelity for the maps, and it just plays better. It was obvious they're abandoning that couple of months ago, not even couple of, 6 months ago. It was obvious they're abandoning that because everything they release these days when it comes to maps is 64 player variants. That's not a coincidence. That's just that's a pattern. I'm sorry, but you have to understand, 128 player experiment is over. And if you haven't played Battlefield for ages and you have no idea that, yeah, that's fine. Well, why would you know that? But I'm more cussing people that haven't been checking what's happening with Battlefield 2042. They bitch about 2042, but somehow they never noticed that 128 player experiment is over. What you been doing then? Why are you on Reddit all this time and you still have no idea about that? They're like, are you that oblivious? I don't get it. So that's that made me mad. I'm reading this, what you been doing? You've been on this subreddit for ages. I can tell you're interacting with the community all the time, and you're mad that they're like, what happened with 128 players? What do you think? What do you think? I'm pretty sure you have enough, mind power to understand what happened. It's because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Anyway, last bit of news. So, end it off, with Season 6. I think the map is great. I like the vehicle changes. I like the gameplay changes. For example, the gameplay changes. For example, when someone wants to spawn on you, in squads, someone tries to spawn on you all the time, right? I always ask them, since Battlefield 4, I always told DICE developers, listen, you need to include a feature. You need to include a feature where the game will tell you that someone wants to spawn on you. It was in the first ever, that feature first ever appeared was in Medal of Honor Warfighter. So when someone wanted to spawn on you, the game told you, you need to take cover for 3-4 seconds or whatever, because a player wants to spawn on you. So don't be in a fight, don't be suppressed, just step back for a little bit and wait for the player to spawn on you. And the game will tell you that. That was in Medal of Honor Warfighter, which is 2013 game. And I asked them to include that feature in Battlefield 2042. With 2014, we're talking about, like, we're talking 10 years late, ago. And finally, in 2042, Season 6, they added a feature. Hey, you're in combat right now. You're being suppressed. Take cover and let the teammates spawn on you. They added like a little yellow notification on the left side of the screen, right above the map. The mini map is on the left side, right? I can't remember. Yeah, it's on the left bottom left. And there's like a notification on the left side of the screen saying, hey, someone wants to spawn on you. Take cover. And they finally added that. Hallelujah. I love it. After basically bitching about for 10 plus years why Battlefield doesn't have this fucking feature. It was so needed. And they finally added it. I am so happy they added it. So, thank you. Someone actually listened. Thank you. And I have a feeling who did that at DICE, who pushed for that at DICE. I have a feeling who's the person that did that. Because I know who designed the Medal of Honor Warfighter, systems regarding EUI and so on. And this is the same person I always talk to about adding this feature. I am pretty certain this is the same person that pushed for this. And I think, and I hope that's true, because that would be really interesting and funny to me. So thank you for adding this feature, because it's really awesome. I think that was him that encouraged to add this. So if that's him, that means the next Battlefield game it's in good hands. That means it's in good hands. So that's great. But yeah, I love Season 6. I think it's a great season. I think the map is great. They made me realize that a Battlefield game is not complete without a, grindy map like that. Like, a Battlefield game is not complete without a map like that. I never liked Operation Loca. I never liked Operation Metro. But the Battlefield, it made me realize that Battlefield game is not complete without a map like that. A Battlefield game, did I say map? Yeah, I can't remember. A Battlefield game is not complete without a map like that. It's just because it just completes the whole package. You have your vehicle maps, you have your big maps, you have your medium maps, and so on. And you have these grindy, small, claustrophobic, narrow map where people just shoot each other in a corridor, And that made me realize I'm not a big fan of maps like these. But we do need them in a Battlefield game. And when they're designed really well, which this map is, I think it's fantastic. I think it's really great for the game. I think it's great for the franchise. I think it's fun for the player base. And as you can tell by the Steam numbers alone, let's back my table. By the Steam numbers alone, it's people are a fan of it. 80,000 plus players on Steam alone, not counting other platforms. We're talking hundreds thousands of players playing Battlefield on crossplay and so on. That's great. It's fantastic, and people clearly resonate with that. So yeah, a Battlefield game is not complete without a map like that. So I learned that lesson. I guess Battlefield does need a map like that once in a while. A Battlefield game needs that. Right, so I like it. Season 6 is a fantastic season. Good changes. Cosmetics are actually pretty cool. And yeah, I recommend it. If you never played Battlefield or haven't played Battlefield for a while, I fully recommend 2042 Season 6. I fully recommend to play it now. Game is in a good state. I can't believe it. They actually did some gameplay changes that are actually meaningful and improved the game so much. And that's great. I love it. That's fantastic. And yeah, I fully recommend it. On the last bit of news, I've been talking for an hour, but I just might as well mention this here now because it's really interesting and probably a little confirmation that we're actually getting more seasons with 2042, which I'm really happy about that. So if you want to know why I care about 2042 getting more seasons, I recommend to listen to the previous episode of Battlefield 1 podcast. I think it was episode 5 where I talked about Reclaimed. Actually, let me quickly check. I think it was episode 5. Yeah, it was a season 5 review episode. So you'll find I think it was episode 5, I think, or episode 4. Regardless, one of those. You'll see. So listen to the previous podcast. I basically mentioned in that podcast that no matter what I think about 2042, no matter how much I might hate it or whatever, I agree with everyone else that it does need more seasons. It needs more seasons. It needs more time to cook. And we need more seasons to salvage this game from the horrible release that happened back in 2021. Yeah, 2 years ago. And give more time for the next Battlefield to be in a bad state. If the next game is coming out 2024, I don't think that's the right time to release a Battlefield game because I think Battlefield needs a rest. I think it needs a break. I think it needs more time for developers to understand what they want from a Battlefield game and make it right. Of course, it's not going to be perfect when it's going to come out because no game is ever perfect. But I think they need a bit more time, a bit more realization what works in a Battlefield game and so on. And Battlefield 2042 is a perfect testing ground for people to, for developers to understand what works in the Battlefield game and what doesn't. Because there was an exodus of DICE developers happening before 2042, and there's a brand new group of people working on this game, and they need a bit of experience to understand what makes Battlefield. As players, we play Battlefield for many years, but just because you're a developer on some studio doesn't mean you play those games, right? Or you never maybe played any of those games, but you have to work on those games, so you have to understand what you're making, right? And the reason like I said, it just needs more seasons. It's because it needs more seasons. The next game needs more time. I think Battlefield needs to take a little break. And because this season 6, managed to get over 80,000 players just on a free trial. Let's be real here. Let's be realistic here. On a free trial, but still 80,000 players on Steam alone. Those are numbers that you compete with Call of Duty. One of the best-selling games out there. So that's a very good sign. That this game has somewhat of a future. And it still can last for another year or two. So what I'm talking about. So basically, on Prime Gaming, which is the Twitch gaming rewards, or whatever you call it, the Amazon rewards or Prime rewards, whatever you want to call it. Like you have Amazon Prime, so that means you can reward some rewards on Prime Gaming and get some free shit in some sort of games, whatever they're offering. For example, I'm rewarding my RuneScape rewards, or Call of Duty rewards, or some other rewards that I have, whatever. So you know what Prime Gaming is, right? And back like a year ago, Prime Gaming was offering Battlefield 2042 bundles, skins, whatever. Those Prime skins that you get with games. So they were offering that for a year and stopped. So they never did anything for a year. Now, as Season 6 came out, Prime Gaming adding another skin to 2042. It was like a skin for Angel, and it's like double XP, right? There's nothing important, nothing big. But the bigger news is that when you go down, like when you click on the website and you go redeem that skin on Prime Gaming, and you go down, it says at the bottom, like, coming soon, upcoming bundles or skins, whatever, and that list is lasting for a whole year. That means they have something planned coming out in the next year, in the next upcoming year. So it says the next reward is going to be in 3 months, another reward is going to be in 4 months, and then another one's going to be in 6 months. It's like a really interesting pattern, like with months. Like, now, of course, You might be thinking, well, this doesn't confirm anything. This doesn't mean anything that this game is going to be still supported for another year because they still can release skins. But think about it. So if the game is being abandoned, right? Let's say there's a new Battlefield game coming out next year. Why would you release Prime Gaming rewards for a game that no one will play anyway? As soon as the new game is out, let's say next year, why would you redeem rewards for a game that you don't play? You're playing already the new game. You're playing the next Battlefield. Why do you care about 2042 rewards, right? So it makes no sense to release that. And the Prime Gaming specifically says that it's for 2042. Specifically. Another thing to consider, like people might say, well, it could be just a mistake, a placeholder for the future. You know, you're right, but I worked at Sony Interactive Entertainment. You know, I worked at Sony, aka PlayStation, and I worked there for 2 years, and I worked in the store. I worked in the store option. So this is basically what I was working on PlayStation Store, which is basically the store. And we kind of, I'm guessing this is kind of like similar method of introducing content, publishing content on the website and so on, or platform, whatever you want to call it. So I have a bit of experience. I'm guessing they have following the same kind of process that as Sony does. And when I was working there, we would never include placeholders like that for the public consumption. We would never, ever post anything like that in the public space, in the public store, in the public, for everyone to see, like, oh, what's coming in the future. It's like, this is like putting the next Call of Duty is coming in the year. Yes, duh, but it's like, placing a, click on a Call of Duty game on a PlayStation Store, you go down, and then you see, oh, in the next year, there's another Call of Duty coming out. So do you want to like put in a wish list or remember or something, like put a note somewhere that the new game is coming out? Like that we would never do that for obvious reasons. And why would Prime Gaming would do that? You would not put placeholders in a public website like that. Even by mistake. There's intention, whatever, to add more stuff to Battlefield 2042. So they have something coming up. And if there's a new game coming out next year, which I don't think there is, why would you release content on a game that we'll never play? Right? So that means, because we have this Prime Gaming stuff, whether it's a leak or not, whether it's on purpose or not, something is coming. And because something is coming, I think this is a good indicator that Battlefield 2042 is still going to be support for the next upcoming year. There will be no Battlefield game next year, and we're getting more seasons. From what it seems, it might be a bit longer seasons, because you have to remember, Battlefield 40, like any game, it can't last forever unless you do some really magical coding stuff. You still have limited space how much you can put in a video game, to keep going. So 3 extra more seasons that will last for a year, so every 3 months, I think that's fair. I think that's not too much. I think that the developers developers can do that. I think it's fair. I think 3 more seasons for Battlefield 2042 to last until the end of the year is more than fair, if you ask me. I think it's fine. Well, of course, people are like, what about season 10, 11, 12? Like, I get it. We want to be confirmed for, in the future, so we have in some sort of investment, some idea that, hey, we're not going to abandon this game and it's going to be up for more than a year. I get it, But, and people say, well, why they haven't announced it yet? Well, like I said, the Prime Gaming stuff and all that kind of stuff, they don't do that kind of stuff by accident. They do it with some sort of intention. So maybe this Prime Gaming leak is basically, it was there on purpose to indicate quietly, unofficially, that, hey, gamers, Battlefield players, it's okay. We got you. more seasons incoming. So any eagle-eyed person, hardcore Battlefield player, they're the ones that need assurances that there's a new season coming out. They can't announce it officially for whatever reason. Probably the content is not finished. They still don't know the date and so on. I get it. Development is a bitch, so they can't officially announce it because they don't want to promise something that it's not coming. This is just a small indicator for hardcore community players. Like, hey, we can't officially announce it that the new season is coming, but it's coming quietly. It's like maybe they asked Prime Gaming, maybe they asked Amazon or whoever's running that, Amazon, Twitch, Amazon, whatever, whoever's running that website. They probably asked them like, can you include that we're gonna be releasing more stuff with Battlefield 2042 because we want the hardcore players know that there's more seasons incoming. And because hardcore players will tell everyone like, hey, more seasons are incoming, it generates a bit of hype. And I remember I was talking to my friend a couple of days ago about leaks, how certain leaks happen on purpose to generate hype and get the feedback and so on, how people react to all of it, and maybe you can change something in the meantime. I'm pretty certain this Prime Gaming stuff that they indicated that, hey, more stuff incoming in the next year, I think that was on purpose. And they were asked by DICE or EA, whoever, asked like, hey, just can you post this so we can assure the players that there's more stuff incoming, so they can continue playing. They have a sense of hope. There's nothing dreadful to talk about Battlefield 2042 because the season is really great. Just enjoy the games, have fun, and wait for the next season. I think this is intentional, because as I said, I worked in this kind of environment. I worked in an online store environment, and this stuff like this doesn't happen by accident. It just doesn't. Will this screen be removed as time goes on? Sure, maybe. Maybe it was a mistake in some sense, but it was there for a reason. So something's definitely coming. So that's why I think that we're getting season 7, we're getting season 8, and I think we're getting season 9. Every 3 months, and maybe something in between those months, there's still 3 months in a year. Maybe like there will be a week or two, break between seasons, doing something else, And I think this is a low-key confirmation that Battlefield 2042 is not being abandoned. There's no Battlefield game in the next year. The next game is scheduled for 2025, whether it be, spring or autumn, whatever. I hope it's going to be like spring, because the next Battlefield game should be in spring, because it's just away from Call of Duty, away from any big launches. It's just Battlefield would dominate the gaming, the gaming market for the next couple of months if they release in March or whatever. But not the point. The point is I think that we're getting new seasons. That's it. I think it's happening. I'm glad it's happening. I had no hope for this game. I still think it's one of the worst Battlefield games released. But I can't deny the positives that they did to this game, the changes they did to the game. I can't deny it. It's changes are good. A lot of good changes. Game feels okay. They're adding some important stuff. They changes how vehicles work. I know they changed some stuff about the jets that people are really happy. Positive stuff is happening. People love it, clearly, because there's a big number of players that are playing the game right now that we haven't seen since launch. All the signs are there. They're finally adding some good quality of life improvements and so on. That what not to be positive about. So just because of that, I am more than happy to get 3 more seasons for this game and last it for another year, and while we wait for the next game. That's exactly what I wanted. That's exactly what I said in the previous episode, and I hope this is the case. I hope. So, that's all I'm gonna say. So, to end this podcast, because I'm talking more than an hour at this point. If you do enjoy me talking more than an hour, do let me know. And if you're still listening, thank you so much. Thank you so much that you're still listening. Thank you that you care what I have to say. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. Thank you so much for basically caring wise, I have to say, I get it. Like just it means a lot, and thank you so much. And like I said, do check out our Patreon. We have amazing stuff on the Patreon. It does help support the podcast. It helps us support the show. And if you don't want to get that extra exclusive content on Patreon, I understand money is tight these days. So at least join the Patreon as a community member, just for free. Use the free trial, or maybe don't even use free trial. Just join. Just pump our numbers. It does help. It does help. Be part of the little group. Message me on Patreon, whatever, and follow us on socials. Twitter, Blue Sky, YouTube's, wherever you fancy. And yeah, I hope Ray can join me for the next podcast, because I want to talk about some important stuff, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast. And that's gonna it. So thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to leave a rating on the podcast wherever you listen to the podcast: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. Oh my God. Have you guys heard that Google Podcast is a thing and they're shutting down soon? Yeah, I had no idea Google Podcasts exist, but whatever. So wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating. It does help. It does help people find a podcast. It does wonders. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed me rambling about Battlefield, about this season, and so on. So that's good. So thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys on the battlefield. Don't be a stranger, and have a good day, have a good night, and don't be a douchebag. Be a good person. Live your best life, okay? And be safe. Thank you guys for listening.